Today you see two super cute knit tops that are very different, very unique. The design is amazing, really comfortable to wear. Some yokes and some gathering going on. Look at this amazing print, and I've also made one in a solid. Stay with me. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I'm excited to share some knit tops. This is a new pattern from Itch to Stitch that I was part of the pattern test. As soon as I saw the liner, I was just pulled in like usual. UNIQUENESS, who designs Itch to Stitch, has an eye. So this time I was excited because it was a knit top. It was very different, very unique. This top is called Algarve top. This is described as a boat neck, but it doesn't come out too wide off the shoulders like some boat necks. I've had experience in the past where it's a lot further away from the base of the neck and you can see your bra strap sometimes. Not in this case, it's okay. It's also not as high that it's going to hit your clavicles. It's a little bit lower, so it feels really comfortable. Very nice. It's a front yoke over here. It's a back yoke, and then on the front, from below that yoke, you have gathers all the way from over here down to there, and it's slightly curved. So beautiful. Grown on short sleeves, so you don't have to sew binding like in a sleeveless design or set in a sleeve with a sleeve design, so it's super easy. Then it just flows and it's got nice amount of ease. It's a shorter top meant to hit the high or mid hip depending on your height. For these yoke pieces you have 2 layers, so it's very nicely finished on the inside as well as on the outside. Because the Algarve top is a brand new pattern at Itch to Stitch, it'll be 20% off through next Wednesday, the 15th of May. It's always nice to get your patterns for a little bit less when the release week is happening. I'll leave you my affiliate link in the description box and in the pinned comment so it's easy to find. It doesn't cost you any extra to go and click through my link. If you end up purchasing, I get a little commission back. That is one of the ways I make an income, by making these videos on YouTube, and I always try to make them helpful for you. So if my content is useful for your own sewing, it's one way that you can support me. So if you use my link, I'm very grateful. You need knit fabrics. I think light to medium weight fabrics are going to work the best. One thing that's super important is that you need stretch, of course. You need a knit fabric, and I'm going to answer you straight away here because there's always someone in the comment that says, can I make this in a woven like a rayon? And absolutely not. You cannot make this in a woven fabric. It's just not going to fit, especially the sleeve area here. It's just not going to fit. It's been designed for knit fabrics, and I think we should respect that. Why is it so important that your fabric stretches 50% both horizontally and vertically? Is because of the fit of the sleeve, which is nice and fitted. It's not super loose. You're never going to see underneath your bra, anything like that. So your fabric does need to stretch horizontally and vertically. That is a must. Fabrics that are going to work super well are rayon spandex, modal spandex, bamboo spandex. I usually don't recommend these fabrics when designs are more fitted because they can be a little bit clingy and you can see undergarment lines and things like that. But in this case, because the design is roomier, I think it'll work beautifully. The gathers here will drape amazingly, so those are good choices. ITY would be great, double brush poly, single brush poly. Maybe a rayon French terry will also be nice. Slightly heavier fabric, but still very drapey, very flowy, so I think that works also. Some rib knits as well, not all of them are as drapey. I did find a rib knit for my printed version, and the drape and the feel is amazing. And my other version is also a fabric that could work with this, which is a lightweight athletic knit. Wicking, very nice, very fresh. Love that as well. And I think it's really required that you have drape here because of all these gathering features. Fabrics I will rule out straight away. Cotton lycra, most of them are more structured and don't drape even if they're lightweight. So just in my own preference, I would not go there with the cotton lycra. I know a lot of people like cotton lycra, but I wouldn't do this with cotton lycra. Other fabrics that are super heavy, like Liverpool Ponte Roma, super heavy French terry, I wouldn't touch as well for this design. You need a little bit of stay tape for this area of the neckline, front and back yokes. I never have that, so I just cut my own little strips of interfacing that is non-stretch and fusible, 3/8 of an inch. Very easy, very cheap to do from your own interfacing. I do that all the time and it always works out perfectly. Sizing goes from 0 to 40 US up to a 62-inch hip. There's a regular bust and full bust option in this pattern. The cutoff for each to stitch is 3 inches. So if you measure your high bust, your full bust, what the difference is there. If it's 0 to 3, you can sew the regular bust option. If it's 3 or more, you can sew the full bust option. So those 3 inches are the cutoff. I always sew the full bust option because I'm right there and I can sort of choose. So I did the full bust option. I don't regret it. It has a little bit more space for the bust. This is easy to fit. It's easy fitting. You're not going to have problems fitting this if you just plot your measurements taken correctly on the chart and choose. You're going to be absolutely fine. I chose a size 12 full bust option, then blended to a 14. And in theory, I should have blended to a 16 at the hip, but considering that this top is shorter, I just finished at 14. At least for my height, this top is going to reach the high hip. It's not going to go all the way down to the full hip, so I don't need that full circumference there. So if this had been a longer top, then I would have blended out to a 16 at the hips. Don't need to do that here, just kept it all 14 up to the hem, and that's fine. It is a shorter top, and because I wanted my top to look shorter, I didn't add any length. I'm a little taller. Sometimes in some designs I do add length to things. Not in this case, I just left it as is. So if you look at other tester versions, it might look a little longer on them depending on the height. I'm not the tallest woman in the world. I'm only 5'8", but it's still a little bit taller than the average. So I just wanted mine at the length it is, and I'm very happy with it at the high hip. No fitting adjustments at all, just blending through the two sizes. So that process was pretty painless. I did film some sewing for you. The seam allowance we're using here is 3/8 of an inch. I think you should use your sewing machine to construct the yoke. I don't think you'll get a good result only with the serger, especially with some details on the boat neck. I think you do need the precision of a straight stitch and sewing machine. You can use the serger for other areas of the garment. So in my opinion, you need both machines here. I suggest you don't assume that anything that is designed for knit fabrics is going to be sewn 100% with a serger. It just depends on the design, and some techniques really do need the precision of that straight stitch that you can get with the sewing machine. So I'm going to use my sewing machine quite a bit here. I'm focusing on constructing the yoke. Remember, there's 2 layers there, stabilizing the neckline, adding the yoke to the gathers on the front, general construction. So let's see. I cut my own stabilizer. It's just a little strip of non-stretch interfacing fusible, as you can see there. You can use fusible stay tape if you have that, but I don't have that, so I just use this. For the front and back yoke pieces, we cut them out of the main fabric. These are not interfaced pieces, but we are going to stabilize the neck area there. You want to fuse it a little bit away from the edge so that when we sew this at 3/8, it does catch it. I'm just going around the curve. It is a narrow strip of interfacing. You can totally mold it to the curve here, and you can see that we're going to have a nice stable area. This is the back you're seeing here. We do the same with the front. Now to cut the inner pieces, these are interfaced. You can see I have a piece of fabric that's already interfaced. This is tricot knit interfacing that has a bit of stretch, has a bit of give. And I've got my pattern pieces here. You can see that I've extended them so I don't have to cut them on the fold, and I'm using my rotary cutter to do that. There aren't many pattern pieces for the Algarve from each to stitch. There's a front, which you see is way wider than the back. That's because there are gathers here in this area. This is cut on the fold, the back is cut on the fold. You can see that this shoulder area has a slope. That's because it follows the shape of your shoulder. And then the short sleeves are integrated there with that short little piece there. And these are the yoke pieces. This one there is for the front. That one there is for the back. They're both on the fold. The pieces that are on top are interfaced. They're the ones that go on the inside. And I'll show you something about them up closer. This is the front yoke. You cut it on the fold right here. I actually extended my piece. On the pattern piece, you're going to have an inner line here that's like 3/4 of an inch shorter. And that's the piece that you use to cut the inner layer, but it's on the same pattern. Let me put this one on top. This is the layer that's going to go inside and is interfaced. You can see how it's shorter over here than this one. So don't get confused. The shorter piece is always going to go inside, and it's the one that's interfaced. And it's the same for the back piece. The back piece, you have one that's a little longer and one that's a little shorter, but they have the same shape because they cut from the same pattern piece. This is the front yoke piece. This one's a little wider and this curve is a little deeper. And I'm going to put my back piece on top right here, right sides together. And the first thing we're going to sew are these shoulder seams. They are slightly curved. When you look up closer, you're going to see a little dot that's marked on the pattern, and this is for all the pieces. So we're going to sew from that dot down, so we're going to leave a little bit free here, and I'm just going to poke a pin through the dot and come out through the dot on the other side. so that they're both at the same place. I'm going to start sewing on the dot, reinforce, and then keep going. Drop my needle exactly on that dot right there. And we're using a 3/8 seam allowance, and I'm using a narrow zigzag stitch for this. Remember, this is a knit garment. And we're going to repeat the same process with the inner layers. They are the same, the only difference is that they're interfaced. They also have little dots that you need to match up. So it's the same step for both layers. Once the both layers are done, then we can put them together. Remember to just guide your fabric through. Don't try to manipulate the tension by pulling it. Nothing like that, so we don't end up with waviness. And we're going to do that on the other side, on the other shoulder seam, making sure you only sew up to the dot there, and then I'm going to repeat the same with the facing pieces. Here at the ironing board, we're going to press these seams open. This is why I want to do it with the sewing machine. It's just going to end up flatter and neater. And plus with the serger, you can't really sew up to that dot accurately, so I suggest you forget about your serger for this part of the project. You can use it for other sections like the side seams, you know, but not for this part. This is the interfaced layer that's going to go on the inside.
And you can see that we have this little area that's not sewn. That's important. It's going to reduce bulk in the end.
And the same one with this layer, that's just a single layer of fabric, but this one has the stable neckline right here. So now what I'm going to do is just put the inner layer here on the table, right sides up, and then get my outer layer, which is the non-interfaced one, and put it together, right sides together, and align the necklines. I'm going to sew with the stable area on top, this area that's not going to stretch at all. With this interfacing, basically suppressed the stretch of this neckline. So I want this touching the presser foot and the inner layer touching the feet dogs. So I'm going to align everything here. I've hand basted my layers together so I don't have to deal with pins here on these curves. And I've got a pin holding the two shoulder seams right on top of each other. And right there where we have that opening from where we sewed those dots, I drew another dot because I want to come in and catch that area by like 1/8 of an inch right there, and then keep going like that. So I think the friction pen is going to help me know where exactly to sink the needle right there. And on this section, I'm going to be hand cranking a little bit right there. For this section, I'm using a straight stitch. Remember that interfaced edge of the main neckline has suppressed the stretch of this area. So this is like sewing a woven garment just on the neckline area. So you don't need a narrow zigzag here. You can see I stopped right at that dot there to pivot over here. This is a boat neck, so we're going to have a little bit of an angle in this section, and this is all free. So let's just pull this basting stitch out, and because this is all curved, we're going to snip, and then we're going to flip this to understitch. It's like any facing really. Okay, let's extend this. The seam allowance is going to be pushed towards the facing over here, and this is the interface section. This is the non-interfaced. You can see there's no interfacing, but over here there is. Seam allowance is going to be pushed underneath the interfaced area, that's the facing. From this area where we have the seam allowance free, we don't want to sew right from the edge. We want to leave about 1 inch free for understitching. So we're going to understitch in 2 sections from here to the other side, but stopping before coming to this intersection. So stopping around there, and then on the other side. This is another presser foot. This has an L on it. It's also a type of blind hem presser foot, but different. When you move this, it moves this edge in or out, so you can actually get whatever seam allowance you want, and it's really helpful. I've set it here to about 1/8 of an inch. Here you can see these areas where the understitching doesn't reach that intersection right there. So now we're going to flip this, wrong sides together, align the 2 layers, press it, and then these raw areas at the bottom, I'm going to hand baste them in place so that these yokes can act like one piece now. Here's my yoke piece, all neat, pressed. This is the inner layer, there is the understitching, and I've placed it flat along my table and just given a quick hand baste all around the edges to keep both layers together and acting like one piece. You could do this on the machine. I'd rather manipulate curved areas by hand. I feel I have more control. and I did it quite away from the seam allowance so it won't be caught in there later. I can pull this out super easily. Okay, here is the yoke piece as one piece now. This is the front, this is the back. Now for us to be able to attach the bottom bit that's going to be gathered on here, there are some notches that are going to help us, but because this is wrong sides together, I don't have those marks here anymore. I'm going to mark them on the interface side here. That's where they're going to be most useful. And here you can see how the inner layer is shorter here. This has got to do with doing the hem of the sleeve later when we're just going to fold this in a single layer, and it's going to end up less bulky. That's why this one was designed to be a little shorter. On the back we also have some marks. These are double, which traditionally signifies the back. I'm going to start by attaching the front over here first. That is the side that's gathered. It's the most fiddly one, so it's just better to do it first and not have the back dangling. The back is just simple. Here is the front. You can see there's a mark here, and then there's a mark on the other side. So along all of this area, we're going to do the 2 gathering stitches. I'm using a straight stitch with a long stitch length. The first one pretty close to the edge, about 1/4 inch, and I'll go from one mark all the way to the other side where the mark is. And then the second row, I'm going to do it at 5/8 just to leave a nice gap in the middle, so that when I go and sew the seam allowance that unites the yoke to the front piece at 3/8, my stitching is going to land right in the middle of the gathered area. I do my gathering the same for woven and knit fabrics. I like doing the gathering with the sewing machine with 2 rows. I think it gives me the best result. Some of you have asked if I like to do it on the serger, and my answer is no. I think the gathering that you can achieve on the serger is too much on the edge, and it's not going to match the seam allowance that I'm going to end up using to sew pieces together. So I know a lot of people do that. I'm just not one of them, so I don't think you'll ever see me doing that. So here is my front yoke. This is the right side, the non-interface side, and I'm going to bring my front piece right sides together. I have a mark in the middle, and I also have a mark in the middle right here. It's something I did from the beginning, so that it's easy for me to align them here in the center. And then over here I have this little mark that I'm going to match with this little mark over here. This curve is going down, this curve is going up, so we need to manipulate this to pin these together. This length is going to be 1 to 1. There's no gathers here on both edges, and then all the gathers are here. Look at all this excess that we have. So I'm going to start by aligning these edges first, and then I'm going to do the gathering. Over here you want to leave that little triangle hanging off at the bottom, because at the seam line they should match at 3/8 right there. When I have curved areas that I'm trying to match up, I think the vertical pins do a better job than the way I traditionally do it. I'm going to take these 2 top threads and pull and start gathering from here until the middle. I like to divide it in 2 because it's just easier to get even gathers that way. So that's half done. The other half is the same process. After pinning the whole thing and gathering, doesn't take that long. We're going to go ahead and sew this. Seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch. I am using the sewing machine for this, and I'm using a narrow zigzag stitch. Look how neat this is. I love how it looks. Now this bottom edge that's underneath the seam, I'm going to remove from those gathering stitches. The one on the top, it doesn't really bother me. I'm not going to remove it. It's going to be covered when we serge this. This is how it's going to look. This is the top yoke. This is the bottom piece. It's gathered from here to the other edge, but on this curve it's not. It's super neat. Now this basting stitch that I've done to unite the raw edges of the yoke can come out, and it wasn't caught in the seam, so this is going to fly out in 1 second. So that is the front. Now to sew the back piece, there's no gathers, it's just 1 to 1, so that's super simple. Okay, now that both of the pieces have been sewn onto the yoke, we can just press them. I'm going to press the seam allowances down. That's the way they're going to end up flatter. Over here I have serged the edge that's going to end up being the sleeve. That was easier to do now. So after I get this pressed, the rest is super easy. All you need to do now is align everything, match up the curved shape here, and sew your side seam that involves the integrated short sleeve, your hem, and then the hem of the sleeve. And that's all. The fabric that you saw me using there was a very unique fabric. It is a rib knit. I had 1 meter. It was just enough to cut my pieces. And the print was darker on one side of the print and lighter on the other. I tried to cut my pieces all from the darker side, although on the front I do have some light side there, and then from the light side I got the yoke. This is a dead stock fabric from Farm Rio, and it was a real find. It was just 1 meter. It was like an offcut in a bin there in a shop, and I couldn't believe it. It's so beautiful. It's pretty out there. If you do know this brand, Farm Rio, it's pretty out there. It's pretty tropical, but I like this one because even though it's quite tropical in the design, the colors are very subdued. It's just tones of blues and white. So ta-da! Look at this. This is what I mean. On the light side of the fabric is where I got the yoke, so that you could see this design and the seam line there that is curved. So beautiful. In the print you can see it says Farm Rio on a few parts of the fabric that is printed on there, like the brand, but this is made by me. There is a back yoke. You can see the curve and the shape. This is not color blocking. This is just using the print in a fun way. Sleeves folded in and serged. There's less layers here in this area because the inside piece was cut shorter. And I took the time to change my thread. In the wider areas I used the lighter thread, but in the blue areas I used the blue thread to hem. The same as the bottom. This is all white, then it goes to blue, and I was just changing my thread a lot, which I have the luxury of doing because I'm sewing for myself at home. I can take all the time I want, no drama for me to be changing my threads. I only had 1 meter, so I always knew that whatever I sewed with it was going to be super special. This is how the inside looks. Everything is serged, seam allowance going down, same as on the back. I'm just really happy with this top, not only because of the design, but how this print behaved with the design and the way I was able to cut the pieces. Took a little while to think about, but I'm so happy. And the other thing that makes me super happy is that I get a little parrot right there on the front. So cute. Yeah, this is very unique. No one's gonna have a top like this. I don't think anyone's gonna be able to find this fabric, and especially pair it with a design like this. So this is 100% unique and I love it. Let's see it on. This is my first Algarve top from Itch to Stitch in a rib knit. I have a size 12 full bust blended to a 14 waist and hips. It's the original length of the pattern. I like this length at the high hip here, and this print is so gorgeous. It's a Farm Rio dead stock little remnant that I found of 1 meter. That was just enough. It's a type of border print and it's just striking. I've used the lighter part of the fabric to do the yoke pieces so that you can see the seam lines. You can see they're a bit curved. So pretty. Little parrot there on my upper chest. So gorgeous. Yeah, I did want to highlight that. It's still the same fabric, but I'm not color blocking as such. It's a really easy top to wear, nice and floaty. Very nice cover under the arm. You're not going to see your bra when you lift your arms, so that's great. I love the summery look with the white denim skirt. You can't go wrong. Super fresh, super light. I've got beautiful leather accessories there on my feet, my bag. I brought out my Mountain View jeans again. You saw it paired with my red version. Now this is a no-brainer because the print has a lot of blue, so it looks really striking with the denim. I've left the same accessories, and as I mentioned before, these jeans are not super fitted and they're straight leg, so I think the silhouette of these bottoms does match a shorter top like this with a bit more volume. I wouldn't want to wear anything tighter than this at the bottom when I have a top like this, so I think this is really nice, and I love how it looks together with the denim. The blue is so beautiful here, and blue is one of my favorite colors as well. I have repeated some bottoms here to style both because why not? Navy blue Icaria pants, very wide leg pants. You see it untucked, but of course I would tuck it in at the front, and I think that's how it looks better with wider bottoms like this. So beautiful. These navy Icaria pants are everything. Rayon linen blend, floaty but heavy, so they just feel so amazing on, and the addition of this top is just the cherry on the cake. It's such a great pairing and I feel great. So nice. Look at the beautiful details on the pockets of these pants. You miss that when you don't tuck in your tops. In this case, the front tuck is enough to show that little detail there, and I'm very happy about that. this is the most casual look of them all. Blue sneakers, I love them. These are white pull-up pants in denim, very comfortable to wear. This would be an outfit I could enjoy the whole day. I wouldn't feel too sloppy. I did make a little bit of an effort even though I'm wearing sneakers. It's just so great, summery. Silver bag again, why not? And I'm just happy I have more items in my wardrobe that go with the white bottoms, because up to a year ago I didn't have any white bottoms at all, and I think this top is so gorgeous. Goes perfectly with the white jeans, or in light colors, and the blue is just everything there. This is my red athletic knit version. I think you can see the seam lines better over here, the curved yoke on the front, the gathers over here, everything's the same. The stretch is suppressed in this area because of that interfacing, so I suggest you don't skip that. Both necklines can deform and stretch out over time, and I think that by suppressing the stretch like that is perfect. I wouldn't change that, and it's just amazing. It's all the same as the one you just saw, just red. This is an amazing fabric. It's a mix of polyamide and spandex. It's wicking, it's fresh. It's a technical fabric that I buy to make activewear, but then I end up making regular clothes as well. So let's see this one on. I've styled it a few ways for you. Yeah, red. I mean, yeah, I love it. This is my second Algarve top from Each to Stitch. Mine is a size 12 with a full bust blended to a 14 at the hem. It hits a high hip. I didn't make any changes to the length. I am a little bit taller, so I suppose it'll look a little shorter on me than on other people. These are the Icaria pants, also from Each to Stitch. Beautiful wide leg pants. I have it tucked out so you can see how that looks, but I would prefer to tuck this in at the front at least, just to highlight the waist a little bit so I'm not drowning in too much fabric here, considering I have wide leg pants here. You can see the detail of the waistband and the button details of the pockets. Love that. So I think for wider style bottoms, either a skirt or pants, I would do the front tuck here just to balance things, and I love this look. So floaty. Look at this amazing neckline. It's not too high. It's described as a boat neck, but it doesn't come out too wide away from your neck, so you're never going to see your bra strap. I love that. And the yoke detail is super pretty. Those gathers on the front are just amazing. I really love that. It's just so delicate, and if you choose a drapey fabric, it's going to look amazing. I like the drape of this fabric. I'm showing you how stable that neckline is because there's interfacing there, so there's actually no stretch on the neckline. It's not going to stretch out in the form over time. Navy and red, can't go wrong. I've swapped the bottoms here for a slimmer style of skirt, although this is not super tight, it's not super loose either. I think it's just right. So I'm quite happy to wear my top just as it is, not tucked in this case, which makes me super happy and super comfortable. White and red is a classic as well. I've had a bit of fun with silver accessories, and I don't really care if people say you don't have to match your shoes and your bags. I'm gonna keep doing that if I feel like it looks better, and sometimes it does. I don't match them all the time, but I'm just like that. I'm old school. This outfit feels super fresh. I can't wait to wear it out. Here I've swapped my bottoms for a wider style, this time a maxi skirt with tears. Also I've got it tucked out, but it looks so much better tucked in at the front for sure. I wouldn't tuck the whole thing, I think it's too short for it, but I think the front is okay. You can see the top button of the skirt and the waistband detail. At least it shows at the height of the waist where it is, and vertically it just keeps better proportions here with this outfit. I love it. This is one of my favorite skirts I've made in the recent weeks, and there's red in there, and why not have another type of red top to wear with it? I really love it. It's such a nice outfit. I can't wait to wear this out somewhere as soon as I can. Really, I love it. Love how this looks. I feel really put together, and the best thing of all is that I'm so comfortable, and you know, ticking all those two boxes is everything when you get dressed. The fourth look is not too elaborate. I've got my Mountain View pull-up jeans, also from Each to Stitch. These are the most fitted style of bottoms that I would wear with a shorter, wider top like this. These are not skinny jeans. I don't actually wear skinny jeans. I think I would not like how that looks. It would just highlight the high hip area. So because these are straight leg, I think it just balances the figure here, both horizontally and vertically. So this is nice. These jeans just go with everything, any style. So I couldn't go wrong here, and the combination of red and denim is never gonna be wrong. So I'm very happy here. I think they're super cute, they're super easy to sew, they're interesting, they're different. I absolutely love how they turned out, how they look with a half tuck or just tucked out with different styles. I think they're quite versatile and I have a lot of fun with the styling. This is just a dream. I love this so much. And the red, what can I say? You know, it's one of my favorite colors. I like blue. I think I just like colors in general. They just make me super happy. So these were a dream to sew up. I just couldn't wait to see them and to put them on. You know, I don't sew test garments with these. I just make them, and the first time I try them on is basically when they're 100% finished. And when you have that big faith in the quality of the pattern and you know everything's going to turn out fine, I have zero stress about the fitting. I know I chose my size, I've measured myself, there's no way this can go wrong, and this is easy to fit. My neighbor is going to start blowing leaves, so I'm going to cut it short now. I hope you enjoyed this episode, that you saw something new. This was a breath of fresh air after a super intense couple of days I had a few days ago of sewing, so super enjoyable. I hope you join me here next time for more sewing content. I'll see you again in the next one. Bye and happy sewing.